This video shows how to create a custom cover page for your inspection reports. PalmTech gives you the ability to add a cover page to your inspection reports. You have the option to use a pre-built one or to create your own. Creating your own cover page is done in print settings, and we can get there either by clicking on the settings button over here on the left-hand side or by clicking on print settings from the toolbar. Let's go ahead and click on a print settings icon. Once here, we're going to go ahead and click on a tab for cover page. To create a custom cover page, we'll first need to check the box for include cover page, and then we'll come down here to option 5, create your own customized cover page. Now we'll click on edit customized cover page, and it brings up the customized cover page screen. In this video, we'll explain what all of the options are on this screen and put together a simple example. On the left hand side of the screen, we see a preview of what our current cover page setup looks like. The picture here is a sample picture and not the one that's actually going to appear on your cover page, as that will change with each inspection. There's also sample data in place for items such as your company name, company address, as well as the property address. This will be changed and updated depending on what is actually relevant to each inspection that you do. In the middle of the screen, we have a list of all of the text elements that are part of our cover page. You can easily add in more text elements by clicking on the Add Text Element button, and to delete one, you would simply click on it and then select Delete Element. If you click on an existing text element, then all the properties for that will show up over here on the right. You'll be able to see the text of it, the position of it, as well as the font that's being used. An example of this is where it says Home Inspection Report. So we'll go ahead and click on that here. Here we can see that the text is Home Inspection Report. It's set to be centered. It shows up 2.5 inches down the page, and the font that's being used is Franklin Gothic Medium, and it's green. Let's make a couple changes to this. First, let's say instead of this being called Home Inspection Report, we want to change this to Property Inspection Report. So we'll just come here and we'll make the change. And when we change it over here, it automatically updates it on the preview. So now it says Property Inspection Report. Now let's lower it a little bit, and we can do that by changing the vertical. And you can move the position of something by just clicking on the arrows to the right of it, or you can simply come into the box and then type in what you want. So we'll go ahead and set it at 3 inches down, and once again you can see it moved it down to where we wanted it. The last change we want to make for this is we want to change the font. To do that, we'll click on Choose Font, and for the font, let's go ahead, we're going to change this to Arial, and then instead of using the green, let's change it to black. We'll click on Close, and our font's now been updated. Now let's add in our logo, and we can add our logo in by clicking on the Locate Logo button right here. When we click on this, it'll bring it up to where we can navigate to the files and folders on your computer, simply finding your logo, and then click on OK, and now it's added in, and by default it's put in the top left corner. We can adjust the size of the logo by coming over here and changing the height, and the position by changing the top and left. So let's make a couple of adjustments. First, let's make this larger. So instead of being about 1 inch high, we're just going to change this to be 2. And that made a big change to how large the logo was. We want it to be closer to center, and so we'll move this to be 2.7 inches over. And we want it to be a little bit lower, so we'll just change this to 0.7. Perfect. The logo looks good and is set up where we want, so now we're ready to move on. Before the logo properties, we have the cover page photo. And so here we can see that it's currently set up to be 4.1 inches down from the top. It's centered, and the height is 4.5 inches. Just like with the logo, we can adjust all of these. And it looks pretty good the way it is, but we want to make a couple tweaks. First, we want to raise it up a little bit. And so to do this, we're just going to change the top, and we'll adjust it to where we want it. And that looks pretty good. So we were just kind of closing the gap between where I had the Property Inspection Report title and then where the photo starts. And we also want to change the height. So we want to make this a little bit larger. And as we do this, you can see it's just making it a little bit bigger each time. And so we're going to make it 4.8 inches. And that just makes the photo take up more of the page. Just stretches it across a little bit more. And that's a look at the most important options on this screen. We're going to go ahead and make a few more changes to get this cover page to look the way we want. So right now we have the company name and the company address in the top right corner. We don't actually want that to show up, so we want to delete it out. To do that, we'll click on Inspection Company Name, this right here, and we're simply going to delete the element. And once we do that, we'll see that it's been removed. The property address that's showing up right here, this looks pretty good, but let's move it up a little bit. We want to create a little bit more room at the bottom so we can put something else there. So we'll go ahead and we're going to click on it, and we're going to change its vertical to, nope, that's a little bit too high. We'll say 8.85. So we've created a little bit more space. And you'll notice that for the property address and then the property city, state, and zip, both of those are listed here, but there's these curly brackets around it. And that's because they're merge fields. The way merge fields work is that it's going to pull the information that you enter into the general information category and then display it where you use the merge field. So this means that you only have to type in the property address one time in the general information category, and it's automatically going to show up on the cover page. So now that the address is where we want it, the last change we want to make is we want to add in text that says this report is for exclusive use by our client. To do this, we're going to add in a new text element by clicking on the Add Text Element button. We'll go ahead and type in the text that we want. So we'll say this report is for exclusive use by, and then instead of typing out our client name, we're going to come here to where it says Insert, and we're going to add in a merge field for client name. So we'll go to Insert. We see client name, and we don't want this to be on two different lines. We just want it to be on one. So we'll take out that break, and now we have it say this report is for exclusive use by George Client's the example client, but it would say your client name. So it's on the page, but it's definitely not where we want it, and it doesn't look the way we want. So we want to change this to be centered, and we actually want it to show up all the way down here. So we'll go ahead and put in 10 inches, and it shows up right at the bottom where we want it. The last thing we want to do is we want to change the font of this just to make it stand out a little bit more. And so we'll click on Choose Font, and we're going to change this to Arial. We'll make the size a little bit larger. We'll make it italic, and then for the color, we'll change this to red. And so now it shows up right at the bottom, and it stands out just a little bit with their client name there. We've now set up the cover page to look the way we want for all of our inspections. We can always come back in here and make any changes we want, and if you ever wanted to start over, you can do that by clicking on the Reset to Default button. Now, let's go ahead and click on Close, and we're going to click on Close again to close out of print settings, because we want to pull up the printed report to see what this looks like. So I'll go to Print Preview, and then we'll click on Continue, and as you can see, this is our new cover page. The logo is set up being that larger size, centered right towards the top. The report title now says Property Inspection Report. The photo of the house is a little bit larger than what the standard size would have been. And then we have our address, as well as this little statement down here saying that this report's for our client. This concludes the video on creating a custom cover page.